Nelson Mandela woke up to freedom this morning in the spectacular surroundings of Bishop's Court, Archbishop Desmond Tutu's official residence on the slopes of Table Mountain. His wife Winnie at his side, the ANC leader appeared for the world's cameras in what must be one of the world's most beautiful gardens. There could be no greater contrast to the bleak years on Robben Island and inside Pollsmoor Prison. After the hiatus of yesterday, the release, rally and near riot, today an image of peace and quiet. Before Nelson Mandela plunged into the first international news conference of his life. Mr. Mandela, James Robbins, BBC News from London. Can you describe your emotions as you came out of the prison for us yesterday, and also your first impressions of the South Africa you've so far been able to see?
I must confess I'm unable to describe my emotions. I was completely overwhelmed by the enthusiasm. It's something I did not expect. And I would be merely rationalizing if I told you that I am able to describe my own feelings. It was breathtaking. That's all I can say.
And your first impressions of the South Africa that you've found in this very short time that you've been free?
Well, it's a totally different South Africa. And along the route, I was surprised to see the number of whites who seem to identify themselves with what is happening in the country today amongst blacks. I was absolutely surprised. And I expected that response from blacks. But the number of whites who seem to feel that a change is absolutely imperative surprised me.
On the vital political issues, Mr. Mandela seemed more conciliatory today than in yesterday's speech, deliberately making clear he sees no conflict between his continuing commitment to armed struggle and an equal commitment to peaceful solutions.
There is no conflict between those two statements. I have committed myself to the promotion of peace in the country. But I have done so as part and parcel of the decisions and campaigns which have been taken and launched by the ANC. There's no conflict whatsoever. There is not a single political organization in this country, inside and outside Parliament, which can ever compare with the ANC in its total commitment to peace. And the armed struggle is merely defensive. It's a defensive act against the violence of apartheid. But we remain committed to peace. And if the government gives us the opportunity, if they normalize the situation, we are ready to make a positive contribution towards the peaceful settlement of the problems of this country.
And Mr. Mandela was concerned to try to dispel white fears of the ANC.
The ANC is very much concerned to address the question of the concern of whites over the demand of one person, one vote. And they insist on structural guarantees, that is the whites, to ensure that the realization of this demand does not result in the domination of whites by blacks. We understand those fears, and the ANC is concerned to address that problem and to find a solution which will suit both the blacks and the whites in this country.
Mr. Mandela wouldn't be drawn on how soon negotiations with the white government could now begin, but was quite clear those negotiations are vital.
In a sense, I have been acting as a mediator because I believe that the first step towards the solution of our problems is a meeting between the ANC and the government, So I have been playing that role. But now that I'm released, it is for the ANC to determine what role I should play.
After 27 years of isolation, Nelson Mandela dealt with every question put to him for almost an hour, as if international news conferences had been a regular feature of his life. White reaction to Mr. Mandela's first public pronouncements is sharply divided. Substantial numbers undoubtedly back the government's boldness, but far-right conservatives who form the opposition in the White Parliament are hoping to rally support for possible strikes and civil disobedience.
The blood of the Afrikaner is in the soil of this country, and nobody, not the British, not the Americans, not the French or the Italians or the blacks, are going to dominate my people in our country of birth.
The far right are outraged by the price they say is already being paid for Nelson Mandela's release. Windows broken, shops looted by a very few of the thousands who welcomed Mr. Mandela to Cape Town yesterday. The government is insistent the price in conflict of keeping Mr. Mandela jailed and the ANC banned would be far higher. James Robbins, BBC News, Cape Town.